How does one man, starting with a single newspaper in Adelaide, end up shaping how people vote on 3 different continents?
That's the puzzle, isn't it? Reportedly, and I'd add, end up in a Nevada courtroom at 93, suing his own children to control it after he's dead.
Right, we'll get there. That part is extraordinary. But let's meet everyone first. I'm Bianca Rossi, and I have to confess, I came to this thinking I knew the Murdoch story, and about an hour in, I realized I knew the cartoon, not the man.
Kenji Sato. I spent a long stretch of my life checking claims for a living, so my instinct with a figure this mythologized is to strip it back to what we can actually document. And there's a lot documented, 8 biographies at least. Sean Boyd here, and I'll tell you where I start. A scrappy afternoon paper in Adelaide, South Australia, 1952. Rupert's father dies, leaves him this one struggling title, and Rupert's what, 21? Comes back from Oxford to run it. That newsroom is where the whole thing begins. I keep picturing that room.
See, that's the detail that reframes it for me. He didn't inherit an empire.
No, he inherited one newspaper and a very good idea of what his father had done.
Which was journalism that mattered, actually.
Keith Murdoch, the father, made his name reporting on the disaster at Gallipoli in the First World War, exposing how badly the campaign was being run. So Rupert grows up with this, the press as a force that topples the powerful. Hold on, say that again slowly, because I think that's the whole key. The father was the crusading journalist, and the son becomes... The son becomes the businessman who buys the crusaders. So picture the young man in Adelaide. He takes this one paper and he does something his rivals think is vulgar. Crime, sport, scandal, big headlines, pictures. He gives people what they actually pick up and read, not what the establishment thinks they should read.
And it works.
It works so well, he buys another and another. Within a decade, he's got papers across Australia. He launches the Australian in 64, a national broadsheet, a serious one. And then he does the audacious thing. He goes to London. This is the late 60s. He buys the News of the World, then the Sun. And the Sun is the case study for everything Rupert Murdoch is about.
Because it was dying when he got it.
A failing broadsheet. He turns it into a tabloid, drops the price, and aims it squarely at the working class reader Fleet Street had been ignoring. Bold, cheeky, populist. Within a few years, it's the best-selling paper in Britain. And here's the thing people forget. It was funny. It was alive. You can disapprove of the Sun, plenty did, but it wasn't dull. And the papers it was beating were dull.
This is what I mean about the cartoon versus the man. The instinct that built him wasn't ideological at the start. It was, what does the reader on the bus actually want?
I'd agree with that, and I would push it one step. The genius, if we call it that, was seeing that a newspaper is 2 businesses at once. It sells stories to readers, and it sells readers to advertisers. Get the first one roaring, and the second one prints money. Say that again. Sells readers to advertisers. The audience is the product. Murdoch understood that in his bones decades before Silicon Valley put it on a slide.
That's a chilling little sentence, Kenji.
It's meant to be clarifying rather than chilling. But I take the point. Then America. 1976, he buys the New York Post. And I love this example because it's the clearest proof of what he could do to a paper.
Tell it.
The Post was this old, respectable, liberal-leaning New York paper. Losing money, half asleep. Murdoch comes in and turns it into a screaming tabloid. The wild headlines, the crime, the attitude, completely flips its politics and its personality and grows the readership doing it. The point being, and this comes up again at the very end of the story, a newsroom's identity is not fixed. He proved you can take a masthead and completely repaint it. That fact matters later.
Because if he could turn a liberal paper conservative, someone could theoretically turn a conservative one back.
Hold that thought. But the American story really turns in the 80s. He becomes a United States citizen. He had to, legally, to own television stations there.
That's such a telling move. He changed his citizenship for the assets.
He'd say the assets were the point. And in 1986, he launches the Fox network. Everyone told him a fourth American TV network could not be done. 3 networks, that's the natural order. It's been that way forever. And he does it anyway. Fox, the entertainment network first. The Simpsons, remember, is a Fox show. Bart Simpson built a chunk of that empire.
I did not have Bart Simpson Empire Builder on my list today.
It's true though. The irreverent anti-authority cartoon is on the network owned by the media baron. There's a whole essay in that. And then 1996, the piece that changes everything. Fox News, a 24-hour cable news channel, explicitly pitched at the audience the man from Adelaide always chased. The people who felt the establishment press talked down to them.
So let's slow down on Fox News, because for a lot of people that is the Murdoch story now.
It's the most consequential asset, financially and politically. And the model is the same one he'd been running since the Sun. Find an underserved audience, speak directly to them, be unmissable. The underserved audience being conservative Americans who felt the 3 big networks were all cut from the same coastal cloth. Whether that was true is a separate argument. What matters is that a large audience believed it, and Fox gave them a home. And it became enormously profitable. We are talking in recent years well over $1 billion in net income annually for the Fox side.
And this is where I want to ask the hard question, because I don't want us to soften it. Did Fox report the news, or did it tell its audience what they wanted to hear?
There's a very concrete answer to that, and it costed about $787 million.
The Dominion case.
After the 2020 election, Fox aired claims that voting machines made by Dominion had rigged the result. Baseless claims. Dominion sued for defamation, and Fox settled $787.5 million, reported as the largest defamation settlement in American media history. And what makes it damning from what came out in that case is the evidence that people inside Fox didn't believe the claims they were airing. The reporting suggests they saw the ratings dip after the election and feared the audience would flee to more extreme rivals.
So they followed the audience over the cliff.
That's the reading a lot of analysts landed on. Murdoch reportedly thought Trump had clearly lost, thought the January 6th attack was shameful. And yet the network locked into the narrative because the commercial logic demanded it. That's the part that turns my stomach a little, honestly. To lead, he had to follow. The man who spent 70 years telling audiences what to think ended up captive to what they already thought.
And that's a genuinely tragic shape to a life, if you sit with it.
It complicates the villain story, which is why I keep coming back to the documents. Murdoch's own private views. He is reportedly pro-immigration, has said as much publicly, favors tighter gun laws, thought the anti-vaccine content during the pandemic was wrong. None of that is the Fox News product. Wait, hold on. Say that slowly. You're telling me the man himself disagreed with a lot of what his biggest channel was pumping out? On several specific issues, yes, by multiple accounts. He's closer to an old-school hawkish conservative than to the movement Fox now serves. Pro-immigration especially. He once pointed to America as the model, encouraging Australia to take more migrants.
So the empire developed an appetite of its own, and the emperor just fed it.
That's as fair a summary as I can give you. I want to bring in the darkest chapter because we can't do this honestly and skip it. Britain, the phone hacking scandal.
The news of the world.
Journalists at the News of the World were hacking into people's voicemails for stories. That's the detail that broke the dam. The public revulsion was total. And it was severe enough that in 2011, Murdoch shut the paper down entirely. A 160-odd-year-old title, the biggest selling Sunday paper in the country, gone. He sat in front of a parliamentary committee and called it the most humble day of his life.
I remember that footage. He looked really... No, he looked like an old man who had lost control of something.
And there was that surreal moment when someone tried to shove a foam pie in his face during the hearing, and his wife at the time, Wendy Deng, leapt up to defend him. It became this circus. But underneath the circus is the serious point. This was the culture of the operation showing its bill. The relentless drive for the story, the pressure to win. It curdled into something that hurt real, ordinary people at the worst moment of their lives.
This is where following the incentives gets you, isn't it? If the whole machine is built to be first and loudest and cheapest, the people running it will eventually do terrible things to stay first.
I think that's right. And I'd be careful not to say Murdoch personally directed it. There's no clean evidence of that. But he built the pressure system. The culture flowed downhill from what he rewarded. The incentives were his. The hands were other people's. Both things are true.
Okay, let's come to the courtroom because this is where the whole life falls back on itself. Kenji, set it up.
So, 1999, Rupert is divorcing his second wife, Anna. And instead of demanding a bigger share of the money, Anna insists on setting up an irrevocable family trust. Irrevocable. That word does a great deal of work here.
It's supposed to.
The trust says his 4 eldest children, Prudence, Elizabeth, Lachlan and James, each get an equal vote over the empire after Rupert dies. Anna's aim was to protect those 4, especially against any children Rupert might have later. And he does have 2 more with Wendy Deng, Chloe and Grace. They get an equal share of the money, but no vote, no power in the company.
So 4 equal votes locked in forever. That's the deal.
That was the deal. Until last year when Rupert went to a Nevada court to break the unbreakable trust. He wanted to hand sole control to his eldest son, Lachlan. And here's the part I can barely believe. According to reporting, the whole thing was set off by the TV show Succession.
Say that again.
The HBO drama about an aging media mogul and his warring children fighting over the empire, openly modelled on the Murdochs. And the reporting says that right after the episode aired where the patriarch dies and everything descends into chaos, Elizabeth Murdoch had her lawyer send round what they literally called the succession memo. Life imitating the art that was imitating their life. And the plan Lachlan and his father drew up to rewire the trust, they codenamed it Project Harmony.
No.
The judge in the ruling noted the name rather dryly as perhaps too optimistic. Because it did the exact opposite. It united the other 3 against Lachlan. Prudence, Elizabeth and James drawn together against their brother.
What was Rupert's actual argument to the court? Because on its face, you can't just break an irrevocable trust because you changed your mind.
Right. His argument was essentially that the change would benefit all the children because Lachlan in sole control keeps the companies commercially strong and that the others might let, in the company's framing, editorial reorientation get in the way of the business. Which in plain language means the other 3 might make Fox less right-wing and that might cost money, so Dad wants to lock them out.
That's an astonishing thing to say about your own adult children in a legal filing.
The judge thought so too. The Nevada probate commissioner ruled against Rupert resoundingly. In a long written ruling, he described the plan as a, his words, carefully crafted charade and said Rupert and Lachlan had acted in bad faith. Bad faith in writing about a father and son.
There's something almost unbearably sad in that. The man who spent his life bending the world to his will, and he can't bend his own family.
Now, it's not over. It's a recommendation to be ratified, and they've said they'll appeal. But the direction is clear.
So let's pull the camera back. Why does this man matter? Beyond the family drama, what's the lasting mark?
I'll go first, because mine's simple. He changed what news feels like. That aggressive, emotional, take a side, us versus them texture. Murdoch didn't invent it, but he industrialized it across 3 continents. Every shouty cable panel, every provocative headline designed to make you furious, that's his grammar. I'd add the structural piece. He showed that media isn't just a business, it's a lever on power. Prime ministers and presidents quoted him because his papers could move votes. And politicians on all sides, this isn't only one party, they lined up to kiss the ring. That's the influence machine.
And the third thing for me is the sheer proof of will. One paper in Adelaide to a $40 billion empire spanning the globe. Whatever you think of what he built, the building of it is one of the business stories of the century.
There's a real debate in there though, and I don't want to pretend it's settled. Did he give people a voice the establishment ignored, or did he poison the well of public conversation? I hear both. I'd say the honest position is that both are true at once. He democratized who got spoken to, and he degraded how they got spoken to. Those aren't in tension. They're the same move seen from 2 sides.
That's beautifully put, Kenji. The same instinct. Talk directly to the ignored reader is the best and the worst of him.
And there's the delicious irony the story ends on. The hedge fund pushing to strip the family's special voting shares, the structure that let the Murdochs control the whole thing with the minority of the stock. Analysts think that structure won't survive long after Rupert's gone. So, the empire built to be controlled by one family forever may end up controlled by no Murdoch at all. Some predict that within 5 years of his death, neither company has a chief executive named Murdoch.
The kingdom outlives the king, and then quietly stops being his. Let's land this. If you had to say what Rupert Murdoch teaches us, one thing.
For me, it's that a business is a set of incentives with a person's name on the door. He built machines to chase attention, and those machines eventually ran him. Even the most powerful man in media became a passenger on the thing he built. Mine is quieter. Watch what people do, not the myth around them. The real Murdoch, pro-immigration, privately for gun control, appalled by the anti-vaccine stuff, is nothing like the caricature and nothing like his own product. The man and the empire came apart, and the empire won.
And mine, it's the trust. He spent a lifetime accumulating control, and the one thing he could not control was the 4 people who share his blood, and each got 1 vote. Anna's clause from 1999 held. A quiet decision by an ex-wife to protect her kids outlasted all of it.
The most human thing in the whole story turns out to be the most powerful clause. That's a good note. The irrevocable trust was, in the end, actually irrevocable.
The lawyers earned their fee. Whatever comes next for those companies, and it sounds like real change might, the story of how one afternoon paper in Adelaide reshaped the world's news is already written.
And it's a better story than the cartoon. Sadder, stranger, more human.
On that, thank you both. This was a real pleasure to work through.
Likewise, I learned something. Same here. Truly glad we did this one together. This episode was generated with AI by Demades.